The autumn sun was gently touching the treetops as Leonard Winters, heir to one of America's largest construction companies, tried once again to escape the intrusive media scrutiny. He parked his modest rental Ford outside a small roadside coffee shop, 100 miles from the bustling city. Here, in the small town of Riverville, no one knew him, and it gave him the sense of freedom he needed. Leo rubbed his eyes tiredly. He's 30 now, and he still can't find someone who sees him as more than just a rich heir. The last girl he dated turned out to be the daughter of a competitor who was trying to get information about the company's new projects. "Will you be ordering?" a soft female voice said. Leo looked up and froze. A young woman with warm brown eyes and a simple hairstyle stood in front of him. Her face was not decorated with makeup, and her eyes showed sincere interest. "Yes, I'm sorry. Coffee, please. Black." "Maybe you'd like to try our specialty apple pie," she suggested. "I baked it myself this morning." She smiled, and little wrinkles appeared at the corners of her eyes. Leo noticed that her hands were a little rough from the work, and there were traces of flour on her apron. "Okay, let's have the pie. I'm Anna." The girl introduced herself as she wrote down the order. "If you need anything, just call out." A few minutes later, she returned with coffee and a large piece of pie. The aroma of cinnamon and apples filled the air. "Are you just passing through?" Anna asked, placing the plate on the table. "We rarely have new faces here." "You could say that," Leo answered evasively. "I just wanted to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city." Anna nodded in understanding. "I understand. I used to live in a big city too, but everything there is fake. People hide behind masks, pretend to be someone else." Leo looked at her in surprise. These words described his life too accurately. "Why did you come back here?" he asked. "It's easier to be yourself here," Anna answered. "People here value sincerity over money or status." At that moment, the bell above the door jingled, and an elderly couple entered the cafe. "I'm sorry, I have to go," Anna said, and headed toward the new customers. Leo followed her. For the first time in a long time, he met someone who said what she thought without ulterior motives. He watched Anna communicate with an elderly couple, warmly, naturally, genuinely. The next day, he learned that not far from the coffee shop is a farm where Anna helps her Aunt Marta. It is there that apples for the famous pie are grown. It was then that a plan began to form in Leo's mind. He called his assistant. "Tom, I need a favor. I need you to find a way to get me a job as a laborer on a farm in Riverville. No papers and no fuss. But Mr. Winters, the board of directors, I'm taking an indefinite leave of absence. Tell them I'm going to Europe to study new construction techniques." Leo sat in his luxurious penthouse looking at his reflection in the mirror. Outside the window, the evening city sparkled with thousands of lights, but his thoughts were far away, in the small town where he met the girl who turned his worldview upside down. "Are you sure you want to do this, Mr. Winters?" Tom, his personal assistant, asked, his voice full of doubt. "Absolutely," Leo replied, still studying his face. "How's the paperwork coming along?" Tom took a folder out of his briefcase. "I've organized everything. The owner of the farm, Martha Davis, is looking for a laborer for the season. Her husband is ill, so they need extra help. I've introduced you as Leo Walker, the son of a farmer from the next county over." Leo nodded, running his new legend through his head. "Tell me more about my family. Your father owns a small farm about 100 miles away. You grew up on the farm, but your father sold some of the land because of debt. Now you are looking for a job to help your family." "Okay, that sounds plausible." Leo walked over to the window. "What about my appearance?" She saw me at the coffee shop. Tom took out another bag. "I consulted a professional makeup artist. Here is a hair dye, a dark brown color. It will radically change your natural blonde. Also, here are contact lenses that will slightly change the color of your eyes from blue to gray-green." Leo took the package and began to look at its contents. And the clothes? I bought a few sets of work clothes at a local store. Everything is worn but clean, nothing designer. Leo spent the next few hours transforming into a different person. Dyeing his hair was more difficult than he expected. The dye burned his skin and the smell was unbearable. God, how do people do this on a regular basis? He muttered as he washed the dye off. Tom watched with a mixture of amazement and concern. Mr. Winters, what about the board of directors? They're not going to believe a long business trip. Leo toweled his hair and looked at his new reflection. Tell them I'm taking an extended vacation for a personal project. They know I've never taken a vacation in my 6 years at work. Let them think I've finally decided to take a break. And your mother? She'll be worried. Tell her the truth, Leo sighed. She's the only one who will really understand. Just ask her not to tell anyone. The next morning, Leo barely recognized himself in the mirror. His dark hair had dramatically changed his appearance. He grew stubble, which in a few days turned into a neat beard. His simple rimmed glasses added to his image of intelligence, but not the sophisticated kind that is typical of the rich, but rather that of a village teacher. Your hands, sir, Tom suddenly said. They are too well manicured for a farmer. Leo looked at his hands. Tom was right. No calluses, no scratches. The perfect manicure gave him away as a wealthy man. What do you suggest? I brought sandpaper and gardening tools. A few days of working with them will make your hands more authentic. Leo spent the next week preparing for his role. He learned how to hold different tools correctly and studied the basics of farm work through videos on the internet. His hands were covered with calluses and scratches, and his nails lost their well-groomed appearance. Are you sure it's worth it? Tom asked one last evening, watching Leo pack a simple backpack with old jeans and t-shirts. Leo thought for a moment, remembering Anna's sincere smile and her words about authenticity. You know, Tom, all my life I've been what other people wanted me to be. The son of a big businessman, the heir to an empire, a successful leader. But no one ever asked me what I wanted to be. And who do you want to be? Just me, without expectations, without pressure, without the need to meet anyone's standards. And maybe it is in this small town, working as an ordinary laborer, that I will finally be able to understand who I really am. That evening, he signed all the necessary documents, handing over temporary management of the company to the board of directors. His phone was replaced with a simple model. His credit cards remained in the safe, and his expensive watch gave way to a cheap digital analog. The next morning, driving the old pickup truck Tom had bought at an auction, Leo checked his reflection in the rearview mirror for the last time. Dark hair, glasses, a simple plaid shirt. He was looking at a completely different man. Welcome to a new life, Leo Walker, he whispered to himself, and started the engine. Ahead of him was the road to Riverville, where he was to begin his new life on Martha Davis's farm. A life in which he hoped to find not only love, but also himself. The first ray of sunlight had just touched the horizon, and the Davis farm was already in full swing. Leo woke up to the sound of the old alarm clock at 5 in the morning, feeling his whole body aching from the day he had spent yesterday. God, everything hurts, he groaned, trying to get out of bed. His hands, unused to hard labor, were covered with blisters from the shoveling. His back ached as if a tractor had run over it. But the worst part was that this was only the beginning of his second day on the farm. Marta, Anna's aunt, appeared at the door of his small room on the second floor of the old farmhouse. "Leo boy, are you awake? The cows are waiting." "Yes, Mrs. Davis, I'm getting up," he replied, trying to make his voice sound cheerful. "Just call me Martha, dear. Breakfast is on the table. Hurry up." At breakfast, Leo tried to hold his fork with unruly fingers. Aunt Martha put a huge plate of scrambled eggs with bacon and a glass of fresh milk in front of him. "Eat more, boy. You'll need your strength." "Thank you, Martha. Everything is delicious." At that moment, Anna entered the kitchen. She was dressed in plain jeans and a checkered shirt, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. "Good morning," she greeted, giving Leo an appraising look. "How did you sleep?" "Fine, thank you," he lied, trying not to show how much it hurt him to even sit up. After breakfast, the work began. First, they had to clean the stables, a job Leo had never even thought about before. The smell was terrible and the work was exhausting. "Hold the pitchfork like this," Anna came over and showed the correct hand position. "Don't strain your back, work more from the hips." Her proximity made Leo's heart beat faster, but he tried to focus on his work. "Thank you," he muttered, trying to copy her movements. By lunchtime, his hands were trembling with fatigue and his shirt was drenched in sweat. Anna would glance in his direction from time to time, and he could see the expression in her eyes change from initial wariness to something akin to respect. After lunch, it was time to learn how to milk the cows. Leo sat on a small chair, trying to figure out how to get started. "Don't be afraid of her," Anna laughed, watching his clumsy attempts. "Bessie is a very patient cow. I'm not afraid, it's harder than it looks. Everything new seems difficult at first," Anna said softly, sitting down next to him. "Look, like this." Her hands confidently took hold of the cow's udder, showing the correct movements. Leo tried to concentrate on the lesson, but he couldn't help but notice how beautiful her hands were, strong, confident, and used to work. In the evenings, he would fall on his bed, feeling every muscle in his body screaming in pain. At such moments, he thought about his luxurious penthouse, his soft bed, his masseur, whom he could call with a single call. But then he remembered Anna's sincere smile, her warm gaze, and realized that he had no regrets about his decision. On the 5th day of his stay at the farm, an incident occurred that changed Anna's attitude toward him. They were working in the field when a thunderstorm broke out. Everyone rushed to hide the equipment and collect the hanging laundry. Suddenly, Anna noticed that a calf was left at the far end of the field. "The baby!" she shouted and ran into the rain. Leo ran after her without hesitation. Together they drove the frightened calf into the barn, soaking wet. "Thank you," Anna said, brushing her wet hair out of her face. "Not everyone would rush out in this downpour for someone else's calf." "It's not someone else's," Leo replied. "It's ours. I mean, yours, the farmer's." Anna looked at him strangely, but said nothing. However, after this incident, something changed. She began to talk to him more often, explaining the various intricacies of the work, sometimes even joking. One evening, when they were sitting on the veranda after a hard day, Anna suddenly said, "You know, at first I thought you wouldn't last a week." "Why?" Leo tensed. "Your hands. They were too well manicured for a farmer, but you surprised me. You're really trying." Leo felt his heart skip a beat. She had noticed his hands, but she seemed to believe the story about the farmer's son. "My father had a lot of machinery," he quickly lied. "I worked more with machines than with my hands." "I see," Anna nodded. "You know, you're not like the other guys who worked here. Is that good or bad?" he asked cautiously. "I haven't decided yet," she smiled and went inside. Lying in bed at night, Leo thought about how his life had changed over the past week. His hands were covered with calluses, his skin was tanned under the scorching sun, and his muscles were getting used to the constant work. But most importantly, he felt alive and real. For the first time in his life, he was valued not for his bank account or his position in society, but for his real deeds and efforts. He fell asleep to the sound of rain outside the window, thinking that tomorrow he would see Anna smile again, and that it was worth all the bruises and calluses in the world. A month had passed since Leo started working on the farm. His hands are rough, his skin is tanned, and he has a calmness in his eyes that he never had in his previous life. One evening, however, everything almost went wrong. Leo was sitting on an old bench behind the barn where there was the only reliable cell phone signal. He thought that everyone was already asleep, so he took the liberty of answering a call from Tom. "Yes, I understand the importance of this project," he said, trying to keep his voice low. "But the board of directors has the authority to make the decision. Mr. Winters, but the new shopping center—" Tom sounded concerned. "Look," Leo interrupted him, "I trust them. If they think they need to change the design, they can. Just make sure they don't go over budget." Suddenly, a branch snapped behind him. Leo turned around and saw Anna standing there with a water bucket in her hands, her eyes wide with surprise. "I'm sorry," she mumbled. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop." "Anna," Leo quickly ended the conversation. "It's not what you think." "What was I supposed to think?" Her voice turned cold. Shopping centers? Projects? A board of directors? It didn't sound like the talk of a simple farmer. Leo's heart beat faster. He had to think of something quickly. "This is my childhood friend," he began, trying to keep his voice calm. "He has always dreamed of opening his own business. Now he's trying to build a small store, and I'm just giving him advice." "Advice on the board of directors?" Anna raised an eyebrow. "He worked for a big company, so he uses all these terms, and I just try to speak his language." Anna put the bucket on the ground and crossed her arms over her chest. "And do you often give this kind of advice?" "Only when he asks for it. You see, Mark always thought I had a knack for business, although I prefer simple work." Leo tried to speak casually, but he could feel the drops of sweat running down his back. Anna looked at him with a long, studying gaze. "You know what's strange?" she finally said. "When you work, your movements, they're unnatural, as if you've only recently learned to do them." Leo felt his heart skip a beat. "It's just that the work on his father's farm was different. Here, everything is a little different. And then there's your speech," Anna continued. "Sometimes you speak like a person with a university degree. You use words that are rarely heard in our hinterland." "I read a lot," Leo answered quickly. "I've always loved books." Anna took a step toward him. "Who are you really, Leo?" Her voice was a mixture of curiosity and caution. Leo felt himself panic. He couldn't lose her trust, not now that they were getting closer. "I'm what you see in front of you," he said quietly. "Just a guy looking for his place in life." Something in his voice, perhaps the sincerity with which he said it, made Anna soften her gaze. "I'm sorry," she said after a pause. "I guess I'm too suspicious. It's just, I've been deceived by people I trusted in the past." These words hit Leo right in the heart. He hated himself for having to lie to her. "I understand," he said. "But I don't," Anna interrupted him. "Everyone has the right to their secrets. Just know that I don't like to be deceived." She picked up the bucket and went inside, leaving Leo alone with a heavy sense of guilt. That night, he couldn't sleep for a long time. He could see Anna's disappointed look in his eyes as she talked about the people who had deceived her. He took out his phone and wrote a message to Tom. "No more calls about business. It's too risky. Only as a last resort and then via text." In the morning, on his way downstairs for breakfast, Leo noticed that Anna was acting a little distant. She was still polite, but there was a caution in her eyes that hadn't been there before. At breakfast, Aunt Marta talked about the day's plans, but Leo barely heard her. He looked at Anna, who was concentrating on spreading butter on her toast, and realized that he was falling more and more in love. And that made the lie even more unbearable. "Leo, can you hear me?" Martha's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. "Yes, I'm sorry, I was just thinking. I told you that we need to fix the roof on the old barn today. Can you do it?" "Of course," he replied, glad to have a chance to do some physical work. Leo worked like a madman all day, trying to drown out his guilt with fatigue. He saw Anna pass by the barn several times, but she never stopped to talk to him as she usually did. In the evening, when the sun was already setting, she finally approached him. "You've been working too hard today. You can get sick. I just want to be useful," he replied, wiping the sweat from his forehead. "You know," she said after a pause, "whatever secrets you're hiding, I can see that you work honestly, and that says a lot." With that, she walked away, leaving Leo with the feeling that maybe all was not lost. But he knew he had to be much more careful. One careless step and he could lose everything he had built up over the past month. The overwork had taken its toll. The next morning, Leo woke up with a terrible headache and fever. He tried to get out of bed, but the room swam before his eyes. "Leo, you slept through breakfast." Anna's voice at the door sounded concerned. "Can I come in?" "Yes," he barely managed to say. Anna opened the door and froze when she saw his condition. "Oh my God, you're burning up!" She quickly came over and put her cool hand on his forehead. "You have a high fever. I told you that you overworked yesterday. I have to get up." "Work," Leo mumbled, trying to get up. "Don't even think about it," Anna said sternly. "Stay down, I'll bring you some medicine and tea." A few minutes later, she returned with a tray containing a cup of hot tea with herbs and some pills. "This is my grandmother's recipe," she explained, helping him sit down. "She always treated us with this tea when we were sick." "Us?" Leo asked again. "Me and my brother," Anna answered quietly. He's gone." Leo carefully took the cup with trembling hands. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. It was a long time ago." Anna sat on the edge of the bed. "I was 15. He was 19. He worked for a wealthy businessman, helping to take care of the horses on his private estate. Once, during a thunderstorm, the horses got scared. My brother tried to calm them down." Her voice trembled. "The owner did not even come to the funeral. He sent an assistant with an envelope of money, as if that could fix anything." Leo felt his heart clench. He remembered how many times he himself had sent assistants to settle unpleasant situations. "Since then, I've realized that rich people just don't care," Anna continued. "For them, we are all replaceable. Simple workers who can be bought with money. Not everyone is like that," Leo said quietly. "Maybe they are, but I've never met anyone like that." All day, Anna took care of him. She changed the compresses, brought him fresh tea, read him an old book she found on the shelf. "This is my favorite book of my childhood," she said, flipping through the yellowed pages. "When my mom left us, I used to hide in the attic and read it." "Your mom left?" Leo asked cautiously. "To a rich businessman," Anna smiled bitterly. "She said she was tired of poverty. Now she lives somewhere in a big city, has a brand new car, and goes to social events." Leo remembered all the parties he had been to, empty conversations, fake smiles, endless prestige games. "And how often do you see each other?" he asked. "Never. She sends cards at Christmas, sometimes money, but I don't accept them. I don't want to be another thing that can be bought." In the evening, the fever subsided a little, and Leo was able to sit up in bed. Anna brought him a bowl of hot soup. "Grandma's recipe?" "No," she smiled. "This is my own. I experimented a lot in the kitchen when I was alone with my dad. Where is your father now?" "He died 3 years ago. My heart." She was silent. "That's why I live with Aunt Marta. She is the only family I have left." Leo looked at her and saw not just a beautiful girl, but a strong woman who had gone through so much loss, but had not broken. "You know," Anna suddenly said, "you're the first person I'm telling this to." "Why?" "I don't know." She shrugged her shoulders. "Maybe because you know how to listen. Most people immediately start giving me advice or feeling sorry for me. But you don't need pity," Leo realized. "That's right," she smiled. "I just need to be understood." Over the next few days, while Leo recovered, they talked a lot. Anna talked about her life on the farm, her dreams of owning her own bakery, and how she loved to look at the stars on summer nights. More and more often, Leo found himself thinking that he wanted to show her the other side of life, the one where wealth can do good, where money helps make dreams come true. But every time he was close to confessing, he remembered what she had said about her brother and mother. One evening, when he had almost recovered, Anna sat by his bedside and told him about her plans for the future. "You know, sometimes I dream of traveling, to see the world, other countries. Why not try it?" Leo asked cautiously. "With what money?" She smiled bitterly. "The farm barely pays for itself." "But that's okay," she added cheerfully. "I have this sky, these fields. Isn't that enough?" Leo looked at her and felt his heart breaking with the desire to tell her the truth. One call from him and she could see all those places she dreams of. But he realized that he would lose her forever. "Thank you for looking after me," he said instead. "That's what friends do," she replied simply. After she left, Leo lay awake for a long time, thinking about how difficult it is to love someone while hiding an important part of yourself. And for the first time in his life, he didn't know what to do with his wealth. It seemed both a blessing and a curse. The August sun was blazing mercilessly when a black pickup truck pulled into the farmyard. A tall man of about 35, tanned and muscular, got out of the car. Anna, who was hanging up the laundry, suddenly froze. "Robert?" she said in surprise. "What are you doing here?" Leo, who was stacking firewood nearby, noticed how her voice had changed, with a hint of tension in it. "Anna!" Robert smiled broadly. "I was driving by and decided to stop by. How are you?" "Still as beautiful as ever." He went over and hugged her. Leo felt all his muscles tense. "Aunt Martha!" Robert called out. "Are you home?" Martha came out on the porch. "Robert, I didn't expect you. Come in. I just baked a pie." At the table, it turned out that Robert was the son of a neighboring farmer and had once dated Anna. Now he successfully managed his father's farm, which had grown considerably in recent years. "And who is this?" Robert nodded toward Leo. "This is Leo, our new laborer," Martha replied. "I see," Robert said, looking at Leo appraisingly. "And how long have you been farming?" "All my life," Leo answered calmly, although he could feel everything boiling inside. "Really?" Robert smiled. "And your hands are too city." Anna gave Robert a reproachful look. "Leo is doing a great job. We're glad to have him with us." Of course, of course." Robert raised his hands in a conciliatory gesture. "I'm just surprised. Usually, city boys don't stay here for long." The following days turned into a real test for Leo. Robert began to visit every day, ostensibly to help with his work. He was constantly trying to show his superiority, either by demonstrating how quickly he could fix a tractor or by telling us about his successes in managing the farm. "Look how to work," he would say, demonstratively lifting heavy bags. "You're not doing it like a man." Leo silently gritted his teeth and continued to work. He saw Anna spending more and more time with Robert, laughing at his jokes, and it was driving him crazy. One evening, he overheard them talking behind the barn. "Do you remember our plans?" Robert's voice sounded soft. "We could unite the farms, create something big." "Robert, that was a long time ago," Anna replied. "Everything has changed." "What's changed? This new employee of yours? He doesn't even know how to milk a cow properly." Leo felt the blood rush to his face. He wanted to walk away, but his legs wouldn't let him. "Don't talk about him like that." Anna's voice became firmer. "He is trying." "Trying?" Robert laughed. "He's clearly not who he says he is. Look at his mannerisms, the way he speaks." "What do you mean?" "I don't know. But something doesn't feel right. Maybe he's a scammer or something. We should check his background." Leo couldn't stand it and came around the corner of the barn. "If you have something to say it to my face." Anna flinched. Leo, have you been eavesdropping? Leo, no, I overheard by accident, but I'm tired of hearing these hints. Robert slowly approached him. Oh, our city boy's pride has awakened? What are you going to do? Robert, stop it. Anna stood between them. No, let him speak. Robert pushed her aside. Who are you really? Why did you come here? I work here, Leo said. I don't have to answer to you. You work? Robert laughed. You don't even know how to hold a shovel properly. You know what I think? You're running from something. Maybe the law? That was the last straw. Leo threw himself at Robert, forgetting all his principles and disguises. They rolled on the ground, exchanging blows. Stop it! Anna shouted. Stop it at once! But the men did not hear her. Leo could feel his years of boxing at an expensive sports club showing. His punches were accurate and strong. Robert clearly did not expect such resistance. Finally, they were broken up by workers who heard the noise. They both stood there, breathing heavily, their faces smashed. Get off my farm, Anna said, looking at Robert. And don't come back. Your farm? Robert wiped the blood from his lip. We'll see about that. And you, he turned to Leo, you're going to regret this. When Robert left, Anna turned to Leo. I thought you were different. I thought you were smarter than this. Anna, he was provoking me. And what? You had to give in to provocation? To show how tough you are? Her eyes shone with anger. You know what's worse? He's right. There is something fake about you. With that, she walked away, leaving Leo alone. He stood there, feeling his busted lips sting, and realized that he had lost much more than just his temper today. He had lost Anna's trust. That night, he sat on the porch for a long time, looking at the stars and thinking about how everything had become so confusing. His secret now seemed like a heavy burden that was about to crush him. And somewhere in the darkness, he was sure, Robert was already starting to dig into his past. And what would happen when the truth came out? The day was gloomy, and so was Anna's mood. In a local shop, she overheard two women discussing her farm. Did you hear that? Robert Miller wants to buy the Davis farm, one of them whispered. What are you talking about? They say they're in big debt. Martha can barely make ends meet. Anna froze with a can of coffee in her hands. She knew things weren't going well on the farm, but this bad? Poor Anna, the woman continued. First her father dies, and now this. Maybe she should take the job. Robert is a good farmer, and he's been interested in her for a long time. Anna did not listen any further. She left her shopping and went straight to Robert's house. His farm was the largest in the area, modern buildings, new machinery, and uniformed workers. Anna parked her old pickup truck in the driveway and headed toward the house with determination. Robert met her on the porch with a smug smile. I knew you would come. What's all this gossip about buying the farm? Anna got straight to the point. Not gossip, but a business proposal. He gestured to her inside. Are you coming in? No. Talk here. Okay. Robert leaned on the railing. Your farm is on the verge of bankruptcy, Anna. I've checked the paperwork and the debts are growing every month. Where did you get our documents? She was indignant. That's not important. What matters is that I can help. Anna crossed her arms over her chest. You mean you can buy our land? I mean I can save you from complete ruin, and not just buy it back, but make it part of a bigger farm. We could work together. Never! Anna cut him off. This is my father's and my grandfather's land. It's not for sale. Don't be silly. Robert's voice became harder. Sentiments don't feed you. Do you know what's funny? While you're here playing the principal, your dear Leo... He paused, watching her reaction. What's Leo got to do with it? Anna was wary. Oh, here's the fun part. I did a little research. Do you know who he really is? Stop it, Robert. You're just jealous. Jealous? He laughed. Of a con man. Your precious Leo is actually Leonard Winters, heir to the Winters construction empire. His fortune is estimated at millions. Anna felt her legs give out. "You're lying. Doesn't it sting your eyes?" Robert took out his phone. "Here, look. A photo from a charity event last year. Do you recognize your ordinary employee?" In the photo, Leo, elegant in an expensive suit, posed with some socialite. No beard or glasses, but it was definitely him. It it could be the same person, Anna muttered, feeling her world begin to crumble. "Come on, Anna. You saw it all yourself. His mannerisms, his speech, the way he carries himself. He's playing with you. Why? What's the point? Who knows? Maybe it's a rich boy's game? Or—" Robert paused. "Maybe he's got his sights set on your land, too. The plot is very good for construction." Anna shook her head. The memories of the past few months flashed before her eyes. The strange phone calls she had overheard. Leo's unusual mannerisms, his knowledge of things far removed from farm life. "I don't believe you," she said, but her voice was trembling. "Don't believe me. Check for yourself. But don't delay. Time is against you. The farm is on the verge of bankruptcy, and I'm offering a fair deal." "Your fair deal is no better than his lies," Anna snapped. "The difference is that I don't hide my intentions, and I really want to help you." Anna turned around and walked to her car. Behind her, she heard Robert's voice. "Think about my offer, and ask your Leo how much his watch costs." All the way home, Anna could not stop thinking about what she had heard. At home, she locked herself in her room and opened her laptop. Her hands were shaking as she typed Leonard Winters into the search, the pages filled with photos and articles. Young Heir takes over the company's western branch. Leonard Winters at the opening of a new shopping center, the most enviable groom of the year. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she looked at the photos. How could she have been so blind? All the signs were there before her eyes. His education, his clumsiness in simple work, his strange phone conversations. In the evening, she went downstairs for dinner. Leo was sitting at the table joking with Aunt Martha, and everything looked the same as always. But now, Anna saw him with different eyes. "Are you feeling well, dear?" Aunt Martha asked. "You look pale." "I'm fine," Anna answered without looking at Leo. "I'm just tired." She could feel his concerned gaze on her, but she couldn't bring herself to look back. How could he? How could he look her in the eye for months and lie to her? After dinner, Leo tried to talk to her. "Anna, is something wrong? You seem distant." "Nothing's wrong," she answered. "I'm just thinking a lot." "About what?" "About truth and lies. About who to trust." She saw him tense up, and that was the final confirmation. Without another word, she went to her room, leaving him standing in the hallway with a confused expression. That night, Anna couldn't sleep for a long time. She kept seeing photos from the internet of Leonard Winters, a successful businessman, so different from their simple employee Leo. Why did he choose their farm? What did he really need? And most importantly, why does this lie hurt so much? Leo couldn't sleep all night. Anna's coldness, her strange behavior, everything indicated that she suspected something. He realized that he could no longer live a lie. In the morning, when the sun was just beginning to rise above the horizon, he found Anna near an old apple tree. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Really?" Her voice was full of bitterness. "And about what, Leonard Winters?" Leo felt the ground slipping from under his feet. "You know," Robert told me. "And you know what? I didn't believe him. I thought he was just jealous, making up stories. But then I checked for myself." She pulled out her phone and showed him photos from the internet. "You look good in a suit, especially at the opening of that shopping center in Boston." "Anna, I can explain." "Really? How do you explain the months of lies? How do you explain playing with us, with our trust?" There were tears in her eyes, and it broke his heart. "I wasn't playing," he said quietly. "Everything that happened between us was real." "Real?" She laughed bitterly. And which one is real? Leo, the simple worker, or Leonard, the millionaire? Both of them. And neither. He ran his hand through his hair. Can I tell you everything? Without omissions? Anna nodded silently and sat down on an old bench under an apple tree. Leo remained standing. It all started the day I first came into your coffee shop. I was really running away then, not from the law, as Robert thought, but from my life. What kind of life? From luxurious parties or from million-dollar contracts? From loneliness, he answered simply. Do you know what my earliest childhood memory is? I'm 5 years old. It's my birthday. A huge house full of people, lots of presents, and not a single child. Only the children of my father's business partners who were brought because it was the right thing to do. He noticed something change in Anna's eyes but continued. Then school. Private, of course. It was there that I first realized that friendship has a price. Everyone wanted to be friends with the Winters heir, and then university, work in the company. And was it so bad to be rich? She still sounded bitter. It was bad not being able to understand who you really are. Every step I took, every decision I made was evaluated through the prism of money. Oh, young Winters bought a new car. The company must be doing well. Winters donated to charity. He must be preparing for the election. He sat down next to her, but not too close. And then I met you. You spoke to me like an ordinary person. You weren't trying to impress me, you weren't calculating your benefits, and I was afraid of losing that. So you decided to build a relationship on a lie? I decided to give myself a chance to be just me. Without a last name, without status, without expectations. For the first time in my life, I could show what I was worth on my own. Anna was silent for a long time, looking off into the distance. You know what's worse? I'm starting to understand your motives, but it doesn't make the pain any less. I know that, and I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. What do you want, Leo? Or should I call you Leonard? I want you to know the truth. The whole truth. He took a deep breath. I'm in love with you, Anna. Not as Leonard Winters, but as a person. You taught me to appreciate the simple things, the sunrise over the fields, the taste of fresh bread, the joy of honest labor. And you taught me that you can't trust people, she said quietly. No, I taught you that people are more complicated than they seem, that a rich man can be unhappy and a simple worker can wear a mask. Suddenly, Anna turned to him sharply. Robert said that you might be here because of our land, that it is good for construction. Leo flinched. What? No, of course not. I didn't even know about your farm when I came here. And now you do? Do you know that we are on the verge of bankruptcy? Her voice was so bitter that Leo's heart sank. I knew things weren't going well, but I swear that's not why I'm here. Then why are you still here? Why do you keep playing this game? Because for the first time in my life, I'm not playing. For the first time, I am truly living. Anna stood up. You know what's the funniest thing? I fell in love with a simple guy who was diligently learning how to milk cows and was happy when he finally managed to fix the fence. And now? Leo asked quietly. And now I don't know who you are. With that, she walked away, leaving him alone under the apple tree. Leo watched her go and realized that along with the truth, he may have lost the most valuable thing in his life. He took out his phone, not the simple one he had been using for the past months, but his real one, hidden in his suitcase. He dialed the number. Tom, it's me. I need you to prepare the documents for, he stuttered, the settlement of the Davis Farms debts. Yes, all of them. And also find out what Robert Miller has dug up on me. After hanging up the phone, Leo sat under the apple tree for a long time, thinking about how ironic life is. He tried to run away from his wealth, and now only it could help him save what had become most precious. Anna sat in her room looking through old photographs. Here she is as a little girl with her parents. Here her brother is teaching her to ride a bicycle. Here they are with the whole family on the farm. Each photo is a piece of life, simple and honest. "It's all so complicated, Dad," she whispered, looking at her father's photo. "What would you advise me?" Outside the window, she heard the sound of a tractor. Life on the farm went on, despite the storm in her soul. She could hear her Aunt Marta working in the kitchen and the workers talking in the yard. Only Leo's voice could not be heard. There was a soft knock at the door. "Anna, can I come in?" It was Aunt Marta. Anna wiped away her tears. "Yes, come in." Marta sat down on the edge of the bed. "Leo told me everything." "And what do you think about it?" Anna asked quietly. "I think life is more complicated than we think." Anna smiled bitterly. "He lied to us, Auntie. All this time he was pretending to be someone else." "Yes," Martha replied calmly. "But you know what? He also worked until his hands were calloused, even though he didn't have to. He helped everyone who asked. He lived in a small room, even though he could afford the best hotel. This does not justify lying. No, it doesn't, but it makes you think about the reasons." Marta took the photo Anna was holding. "Your father always said, don't look at words, look at actions. What has Leo done in these months?" Anna thought about it. Memories flashed before her eyes. Leo learning to milk a cow for hours. Leo rushing out into the rain to save a calf. Leo sitting with Aunt Martha in the evenings listening to her old stories. He tried," she said quietly. "More than trying, dear. He tried to become a part of our world. And you know what? He succeeded." At that moment, there was another knock on the door. Leo stood on the threshold, not in his work clothes, but in a suit that clearly cost more than all their equipment combined. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he said, "but I have something to tell you both." Martha nodded. "Go ahead, boy." I paid off all the farm's debts," Leo said. "All the paperwork is in order. The farm belongs to you completely with no strings attached." Anna jumped to her feet. "What? You had no right." "I did," he replied calmly. "It was the least I could do for your kindness. And also, I'm leaving." "You're leaving?" Martha asked. "Yes. I've been running away from my life for too long. It's time to go back and deal with everything." He took an envelope from his pocket. "Here are all the documents for the farm and my contacts. Real contacts in case you ever need them. Do you think money can fix everything?" Anna's voice trembled. "No," he shook his head. "I know it can't, but I couldn't leave knowing that you could lose your home." He turned to Marta. "Thank you for everything. You taught me more than all the business schools in the world. And you taught us that you can't judge a book by its cover," Martha replied softly. Leo looked at Anna. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for a second chance. Just be happy, Anna." With that, he left. Through the window, they saw a black car with a driver pull up to the farm. Leo got into the car without even looking back. "He really loves you," Martha said quietly. "How do you know?" "Because a rich man doesn't work on a farm for months for fun, and he wouldn't pay off debts without asking for anything in return." Anna watched the car disappear into the distance. "What should I do, Auntie? What does your heart say?" My heart hurts," Anna answered honestly. "It hurts from the lie, but it hurts even more from the fact that he left." Martha hugged her niece. "Then maybe this is your answer. You know, your father always said, the truth may hurt, but lies kill." Leo confessed everything, albeit too late. Maybe that means something. Anna hugged her aunt like she did when she was a child. "I need time. Time to think it over, to understand myself. You have time, dear. Now that the farm is saved, you have time to think about yourself." They sat embracing, looking out the window at the fields that were now truly theirs. Somewhere out there, on the road to the city, was the man who had turned their world upside down. And although Anna did not know what the future would bring, she knew one thing: her heart was not left here by chance. A month passed. Anna noticed small details: a man in a suit who seemed to drive by the farm by chance, a black car parked in the distance, unknown numbers that called from time to time. She knew Leo hadn't left them unattended. "You know, he still cares about us," Aunt Marta said one day at breakfast. "I know," Anna answered quietly. "His people are watching from afar. And how do you feel about that? That I miss him. I miss him a lot." That evening, standing in front of the mirror, Anna looked at her reflection. The blue dress she had bought for last year's fair, but had never worn, emphasized her figure. Her long hair was styled in soft curls. "Are you sure?" Aunt Marta asked, standing in the doorway. For the first time in a long time, yes. Anna pulled out the envelope Leo had left behind. The address of his penthouse was written in neat handwriting. The drive to the city took 2 hours. All the while she was thinking about what she was going to say. The house was impressive in its grandeur. The concierge looked at the girl in the simple dress with suspicion at first, but when she said her name, his face changed. "Oh, Miss Davis. Mr. Winters warned me that you might show up. Please, the elevator is directly to the penthouse." Anna's heart beat faster. Was he waiting for her? Was he hoping she would come? When the elevator doors opened, she found herself in a luxurious apartment. Huge windows overlooked the city at night. Everything here screamed wealth and status. "Leo?" she called softly. She heard footsteps and he appeared from the next room, disheveled, wearing a simple t-shirt and pants. He looked like he was sleeping. "Anna?" His eyes widened in surprise. You're really here?" She took a step forward. "Your people aren't very good at hiding. I saw them out by the farm. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. I know, and that's one of the reasons I'm here." Leo ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she knew so well. "You look stunning. This is the same dress I wanted to wear to the local fair. Do you remember? You said that blue was my color. I remember every moment with you," he answered quietly. Anna took a deep breath. "I've been thinking a lot. About us, about truth and lies, about who we really are. And what did you realize? That I didn't fall in love with the mask. Not in a rich heir and not in a simple worker, but in a man who was ready to change his whole life for me." Leo's eyes sparkled. "Anna, let me finish." She raised her hand. "You lied about your background, but you were honest about everything else. In your care, in your hard work, in your feelings, in every feeling I have for you." He took a step towards her. "And you know what? I can't live without you." Her voice trembled. "I can't wake up and not see you at the farm. I can't not hear your laugh. I can't." She didn't finish. Leo closed the distance between them in 2 steps, scooped her up in his arms and kissed her. It was a kiss that mixed months of hidden feelings, the pain of separation and the joy of reunion. "I love you," he whispered, pulling away from her lips. "I love you for who you are. Strong, honest, real. And I love you, the millionaire, the farmer, and just Leo." She smiled through her tears. He carried her into the apartment, not letting go of her. "What now? Now we start all over again. No masks, no lies. And where will we live? Here or on the farm?" Anna wrapped her arms around his neck. "Who says we have to choose? A farm needs a master who understands business, and your company could use a little farming wisdom. Are you suggesting that we unite our worlds?" He smiled. "I propose to create our own world, where there is room for both luxury suits and work boots." That night they talked for a long time, sitting on the terrace of his penthouse. They talked about the future, about plans to develop the farm, about how to make their different worlds one. And in the morning, Leo surprised everyone by showing up at the farm in a suit, but with a shovel in his hands. "What?" He smiled when he saw Aunt Martha's surprised look. "The farm doesn't take care of itself." "You don't have to," Anna began. "I do," he interrupted her. "Because this is no longer a game or a disguise. This is our life together." And he was right. Their life was just beginning a life where there was no place for masks, but there was room for sincere feelings, hard work, and true love. A year later, the Davis farm turned into a prosperous business. Leo finally learned how to milk cows properly, and Anna mastered the intricacies of corporate negotiations. They proved to everyone that two different worlds can not only coexist, but create something new and beautiful. And Robert? He found his happiness in a neighboring town, realizing that true love cannot be bought with money and cannot be won by force. And every evening when the sun went down, Leo and Anna sat on the old bench under the apple tree where their story once began, and thanked fate for bringing them together. A rich heir who was looking for a real life, and a simple girl from the farm who taught him to appreciate the most important things.